Here we go. So last week we spoke about the difference between the ways a woman becomes a nida. That was if you wanted to put the whole shir into one sentence, it was there's woman becomes nida obviously when she sees dam, when she has her period. And with that, we spoke about the difference between on a bedika cloth, there's your usher or mamish on the small stat. On a kesem, a stain, which is on a garment, there's a shear, a requisite shear of a penny, a gris v'oid. We spoke about the fact that no one should ever assume they're usher without asking a shayla, because more times than not, one thinks it's red. Lamaisa, it's not red, or it's red, but not according to the Rav's eyes, and not because he's colorblind, but because he has the appropriate Messiah. And therefore, that is the gist of last week's year. We spoke about that if one is on birth control or other stages of life that could mess with her period, she could often be staining. There could be significant quantities of actual blood. It is blood. We paskin it's blood 100%, but she's not a nida. That was the gist of last week's share, which someone said afterwards. So basically, all the Rav is saying is that we should ask shaylas always. And the answer is yes, until you get a familiarity in a real way of what's going on. If one has that familiarity, great. But if you find yourself being machmir often, then you should be asking a shayla. That was that. Someone afterwards came over to me and said, I didn't mention anything about a makkah. I said that was on purpose, because what that just means is that there was a bedika and it was red, and it's still she wasn't usher. So that's another reason to just ask a shayla, because she has a cut of one now. But the one thing I will add on, a little cherry on top, is I think I mentioned this klach is that if a woman at any point is having pain doing bedikos, she or he, someone, should seek rabbinic guidance. It's not supposed to be painful. It's not supposed to be. Sometimes we think, part of my muscle, I have a shtickle stuff nose. But sometimes we think, you go a little bit too high up there, you know what I'm saying? It hurts. Okay, so it hurts her when she does a medika. It's not supposed to be that way. And therefore, if it is, it's a chaval. A woman can spend her whole life thinking it's supposed to be painful. She could spend her whole life thinking, for me, it doesn't take me 5 or 6 days to get clean. It takes me 7, 8, or 9 days. And the real reason is she's just cutting herself every single month. And then it takes an extra 2 days to heal, which is just bizarre. So ask shaylas. Well, what do you say? I thought someone said something. With that, let's move on to the next stage of life. Okay, so she's a nida. What comes next? What comes next is the halachas of when she's a nida, which is be'etzem harchakos. But before I get there, we're not going to really have time for vestos. We're not going to have time for it. So I'm gonna summarize the whole thing in 3 to 5 minutes. Believe it or not, I hope I do more good than damage. I hope, and then we'll spend the next 15 minutes after that talking about harchakos. Now, vestos is when a woman is tahar. So I know our brain's a little bit jumping, but I'm on my coffee, not the first of the day. Yeah, we'll get to the apps. I don't have a problem with apps, but we'll explain in a moment. Okay. Basically, when a woman is tahar, there is the expected period. That's called a vest. On the day that she expects her period, it is usher for her to be together with her husband. That is vestos in a nutshell. There's 3 basic times we expect her to have her period, one more important than the other 2. The 3 basic times are Ein Beinis. I'll say the English in a moment. The next is the day of the month, Yom HaChodesh. The next is the day of the interval, number 3. The most important, they're all important, but the most important is Ein Beinis, which is day 30 or day 31. Ask your LOR. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then let's just start with day 30, and we'll work up from there. The reason day 30 is so important is for the following. Because sometimes you think, okay, so the day 30, we can't be together. Okay, whatever. No. The problem is she has to do a bedika on day 30. If she doesn't do a bedika on day 30, she is usher. Not just on day 30, not just on day 31, not just day 32. She is usher. She's usher. Now, eventually her period is going to come, so it's not such a big deal. But that's a straight up isser. Straight up isser. It's a shelev. It's a deraisa, believe it or not, vestos. It's a real isser. So therefore, day 30 of bedika has to be done. And relations are forbidden, as well as the other 2 days. That's really the whole Vestos in a nutshell. Now, there's 2 qualifications. 30 from the day of bleeding. Now, I'm not going in depth. I should, but because we said we're doing the whole need in 4 times, we're going to try to cut and paste and hope the picture at the end doesn't look like it was cut and paste. So Vestos is a vest time period is an interval of day or night. Interval of day or night, which means if a woman on this month sees by day, the next month she's going to be usher by day on day 30. If in this month she sees at night, next month she's going to be usher at night. I'm giving you the basic halacha. Yes, there's something called an arzarua that we suspect in beforehand, and there's something called a crazy or pacey that we suspectful for 24-hour period. All these things exist, but we got to start with the basics because this is one of those things that we just lose in the busyness of life. Now there is an app. Now many rabbanim get up, yell and scream about the app. Now we could yell and scream about the app, but then what's the alternative? If you're not going to pull out a calendar and actually do the math, use an app. There's nothing wrong with it. Just use the right one. There's options. Go to settings. There's a lot of options. Read through it, or else you're going to be keeping a different religions. Literally, I'm not joking. I don't mean this in a facetious way. There's a massive machlekes, particularly in the world of Vestos, between the Shulchan Aruch Harav and the Shulchan Aruch, between Chabad and the ganze Welt. This is the biggest area of machlekes, the biggest. And if you don't check the right box, you're totally messed up. We're chayshish where the period starts. They're chayshish for the hemshech, maybe the sefer. Again, I don't know how the apps are built, so I can't comment, but I could say it's just check the right box. It's not so simple. There's the settings over there. Just like there's settings everywhere, your notifications, everything has settings. There's the settings in the app. And go in, and it lets you choose how religious you want to be. It's so beautiful. Do you want to suspect for day 30, day 31, or Zarua? So if you know nothing, it's like click all. Okay, you could do that. That's okay. But the one reason my one hesitation with the app is as follows. It only gives you reminders, I think. Could be they made it better. I believe it gives you a reminder right then. I don't think it gives you an option to give you a reminder like 2-3 days prior. So the difference is an old school yid that has a calendar, so it's part of your life. The beginning of the month, woman sees, you mark it on the calendar, you sit down and you count, and you and your wife fight. Who forgot how to count? It's 30, it's 31. Wait, you count the day, you don't count the day. How do we do this? You open the book, you try to figure it out. Okay, it's gishmak, that's part of life. But then the date's on the calendar, and then you know that day is aser. So what does that mean? That means the day before your mutter. So so very simple. If that day I'm off, the day I'm for a mutter, just figure out your life. It's not complicated. The complications become when you don't figure out your life. And then the pop-up comes, boom, she's aser, or boom, it's a chumrah. And then, oh, wait, but with this and with that, and then all the issues come. So if you have foresight, it really avoids a lot of problems. And that's really the reason why, if one is going to use an app, which is great, because many people are doing nothing, unfortunately, Hashem Yirachem, then at least just be mindful of scheduling. Scheduling in life is very important. And then, by the way, if you're thinking about it, it's not so hard. You could take in chumras also. So just know when's aser and the other times are mutter. It's really not complicated. The complications only become when we're not mindful. Now, obviously, there's going to be times. It's going to be a vacation. There's going to be a Friday night. And it's going to be no guests. And it was a busy week. And Avada, there will be times. And okay, that's when things. But the bottom line is, Vestos, and I'm 1 minute over my allotted 5 minutes, is those are the 3 Iker Vestos. Beresham is ein beinis. On all 3 of them, you're supposed to be doing a bedika. I say a bedika, not 2 bedikas, because the Chazon Ish was mekel on 1 bedika, so one could be mekel on 1 bedika, and that is that. Now, the real big asterisk is how do we deal with this in light of birth control? How do we deal with this? How do we deal with this in light of pregnancy? So I don't really want to weigh in. I don't want to weigh in because it's one of those things which is very interesting. In text, everyone is machmir. Everyone. And this is Ramesh that's mekel, but the general Kabbalah in the Welt is that even one who's on birth control is chayshish for ein beinis. You ask even the greatest of mekilim, and they'll tell you, yeah, no, ein beinis we're chayshish for. Which again, it's one, not even day, 1 12-hour time period. It's not so complicated. The difference just is there something on your mind, and should you be doing a bedika? That's really the difference. Lamaisa, Ramesha is mekel, so what should I tell you? The one thing I will say is you have to make sure the birth control is working because
with mekel you don't have to do anything.
That's what it seems. That's what it seems. That's what it seems. I say it's what it seems because it's not perfectly clear in the tshuva, but it seems that Ramesha would be mekel based on Ramesha. We can even be mekel on Eina Beinis, even be mekel not to do a bedika. But it is a little bit of a shver kula, because if again, we could do a whole share on birth control, and maybe we should, because that's probably the most relevant share of all. Yeah, we probably should, actually. Okay, we probably should skip our chakras right now and just go straight into birth control, but I'm not going to do that, because that's what everyone's handling anyway. So why handle what we're not handling? Let's handle what we're handling. Okay, so you know what? Fine. Point taken. This detail in Mirz Hashem, we will give a share. Not next week. No. Well, whatever. Maybe number 5, or we'll stick it in. Next week is off. Mirz Hashem. The week after, we'll do all the different contraceptives. We'll do birth control, and at that point, we'll speak about the shayla, like I mentioned. Perfect. That's the basic about Vestos. And really, the one detail I want everyone to know is that Vestos are real. They weren't like one of those things that you learned as a chassan, you try to keep for the first whatever, and then after the first kid, Baruch Hashem, it's like, okay, yeah, whatever, I don't know, move on, weiter. It's real. Okay, Harchakos. Harchakos is another one of those things, which is, what should I say? I think, unfortunately, the only time people remember about Harchakos is when you're honored with kvater, and your wife's a nida. You're like, oh, wait. Right. There's that thing. We're not supposed to be passing things, which we've been doing every single day 25 times. And it's a shayla. Okay, it is a shayla and it is aser. At least maybe that's a reminder. So basically, in the world of Harchakos, I want to read you a lashon of a Rashba, because it's a very basic kasha. And the kasha is, and this is one of those things that if you remember, probably right when you get married, it's a bothersome detail. Once engaged, when you're engaged, you can hand the kala the bottle of soda, right? You could. There's no big deal. You could share a bag of chips. I'm not getting involved in chassan shvus here. What shouldn't be done? Yeah, I'm not getting involved in that. Okay, everyone had their own experience or horror stories, and that's for a different time. But yes, you're allowed to pass things, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And yet, one gets married. Now you're married. Now she's in Ida, and I can't hand her something. And like we think it's almost like did Chazal like fall on their head? Pardon my French. Like what in the world? Why is it usher? So the Rashba is l'chayra asks this kasha. The Rashba in Shuvas Chelik Aleph Elef Kuf Bechas, he says as follows. He says, you even not let a hand slave to your wife as an ida. He says, and I want to read you one line. Ubekrevas ma'at, and really, as everyone, this is probably the one line we all remember about Harchakos, is how the Chassan Rebbe said to us, from Harchakos, we learn what you're supposed to do when she's tahar. If when she's tamei, you're not allowed to eat on the same plate. So when you're tahar, you're supposed to learn that, and you're like, yeah, really? Like, I don't know, my wife's not going to really deal so well. Yeah, come, let's eat dinner. It's one plate on the table. Like, oh, one set of forks. No, this is how we eat all the time. Like, come on, it's not. It's a little bit extreme. A little bit extreme. I'm happy from everyone's facial expressions. We've all had the same experience. So says the Rashba, ubekrevus ma'at, with a little kravus with one's wife, ika lemichash lehergel avera. We're worried it's going to bring to avera. Aval b'shar nashim she'en li boy gaspam, a random woman, but dvarim elu, with these things, he's going to shut us kli, like handing something over kids, but in by misham hergel avera b'mi she'en li boy gaspam. And the reason, what he's explaining to us is that because there is a liboy gaspay, of course, with one's wife, we're worried that even the smallest acts could bring to Avera. As extreme as that sounds, but at least we have a little bit of an understanding why, to the woman behind the counter, she could hand me change in my hand, and maybe even she might touch my hand, and there was nothing wrong with that. But to my wife, to pass a sitter that's quite large and like this, and there's no way in the world I'm coming to touch her, it's usher. And the answer is because when one is married, we're worried that any level of connection could bring to a further point. And that's really the whole of Harchakos is really that. It's laharchik, it's to distance oneself from one's wife at this time. We've all learned the Gemaras that Bizman Chazal, Nidus was a real deal. They were big day Nidus. The woman wore special begadim. She slept in a different house. It was a pretty interesting life. Well, I guess we'll say it like that. Everyone's wondering, so where do the kids sleep? That's the bottom line. You just want to know where the kids sleep. Yeah.
I didn't change.
Yeah. Oh, there's a kid sleep with the wife. You're saying the husband goes to the back house?
Yeah.
And then...
This is the problem with the new generation.
Oh, boy.
What happened to the good halachos?
I'm going to get in trouble now. Okay. New apartment bought by all the men in the neighborhood to use. Okay. Weiter. There's a famous Ramesha, which It's a famous Ramesh. Ramesh talks about, what about Busha in the world of Harchakos? Amesa. You're eating out, and your wife goes to pass you the platter of meat, or you go to pass it to her, whichever one is the branded one. Of course, they're not here. We can pretend it's them, but we know it's us. And you're like sitting there like this, and she's just not taking it. You're like, can you just? You're not even looking at her, just like handing her the thing, and she's just like, can you? Oh. So it could get pretty embarrassing. So Ramesha, in a very famous tshuva, says, no, there's no such thing, even though in general, Kavod Abrius is a real Zach. Ramesha says over here, he says, listen to his line. Whether don't worry, this is not a psak, it's a Ramesha, but he says, Mishum she'ein bazeh bizayin kol kach. Why not? Everyone knows what's the big deal. I have a nose. And she's an Ida. What? It's like a new invention. Everyone knows she's an Ida. It's a normal azach. B'chol chaydesh kishen zekena slam ubaras. Usrichel this rachik mi by leim be'ezet dvarim. V'adarabba haharbe ayolav shes begadim yuchadim le'nidas. Was van chazali were special clothing. Yoytis hashchenos. All the neighbors would know that she's an Ida. Almost. What do we see? Shleya mitbaishes bezeh, that there's no embarrassment about that. Omisha mitbaishes kishin nimsas meilu shein shaymer tina yatayra. Ein lahachshav busha. Other people don't keep Torah, so you feel bad. No, we don't call this bush because chavod abrios lahatir yisurim v'avlu mini yisrael b'shulzeh. Adrabba toiv shaloylet bayish. You should be in bayish. You're mevayish. You're doing the right thing. Ramesha gives the ganze musa shmus. Okay, lamaisa, which I tell you, people are embarrassed. People are embarrassed, and how do we contend with it? So the bottom line is, I want to break down in the next 10 minutes. I want to break down all of our chakos into 4 basic areas. 4 basic areas. Our chakos are a type of limud that really what Chazal are trying to do, they're trying in a way to be controlling. I don't want to sound crazy, but they're controlling our actions. They want that the interaction between a husband and wife at the time that she is usher, it should be different. Now, someone might say, come on, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to do anything with my wife if she's an Ida. Okay, that's what everyone said until they were nichshal in any Aveira in the world, and we don't have to start telling stories. Every Aveira in the world started with, I'm never going to do anything wrong, and before you know it, Shalom Aleichem, what happened? Oh, I don't know. Okay, so Chazal didn't know, and Chazal created a clear list of guidelines to control how we're supposed to act towards a woman when she's in Eden. Now, it is important to note, it's not to create a coldness. I don't think I have to say this. I just want to say, in case anyone has a silly thing in their brain, we're not trying to create a coldness. We're not creating, we're creating a physical halachic barrier, and the physicals then go even into word and action, to be mindful of the fact that she's at a time that it's usher. But Lamaisa, with that being said, there's 4 basic areas of halacha that we're going to break it down into. Each one we could give a full shir on, because life is life, and life has actions, and you're living with someone. There's every single. Okay, but let's try to do what we can do. So the 4 basic things we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about touching and passing, eating and serving, sleeping and bed preparations, and dress and conduct. 4 basic categories, and as you'll see, this is going to cover the basic gamut. And I think the problem, this is what I personally found when I learned Nida properly, is that the gisha is incorrect. The approach, we don't have the right approach when it comes to our chakras, so we just get confused. Because we get a list of rules, do's and don'ts. We don't do well with do's and don'ts. We just don't. Because who could remember a whole list? I could pour her a drink when she's not in the room. I can't pour her a drink when she's sitting. And it's rules. Rules are very difficult. But if we understand the ideology behind it, it's so much simpler. And because we know it as rules, we end up totally messing up the whole thing. Let me explain. The approach is very simple. We're trying to create a lack of kirva. That's all we're trying to do. And if something is not creating kirva, it's going to be mutter. We're trying to create a situation that husband and wife will not come lidei avera. Now, avera does not mean touching. It does not mean negia, even though negia of Anita is, of course, usher, but it means into proper avera. And we believe that one thing always spirals onto the next. So that's really what we're trying to do. And the reason why that's important is because the whole sugya, the whole topic of schayk v'kalas roish, that you can't frolic, I think is the article term. No one knows what that means. You can't joke around and things like that. It's misused and abused. What I can't be nice with my wife when she's at Ida. What I can't tell her a story. Of course you could. Can't tell her a joke. Of course you could. Schoit v'kalas roish is a level of lightheadedness of avera, of something which is, we'll call it almost inappropriate. Oh, inappropriate, dude, we're married. What do you mean inappropriate? Right, inappropriate at this time of month. So instead of getting caught up with, is the game of ping pong, I'm hitting it towards her, I'm hitting it away from her, let's just understand what's happening over here. We're sitting down, there's 25 people in the room and we're playing ping pong against each other. If that's leading Lidei Avera, we got a serious problem. I don't know what's going on in this house, but something is wrong. This is called fun. You're allowed to have fun. You're just not allowed to do something that's going to lead Lidei Avera. That's the Hakdama. I think that ideology really clears a lot of things up. When it comes to touching and passing, it's very simple. Number one, you can't pass anything. Number two, you can't pass anything. And number three, you can't pass anything. And that's just the way to it. Finished. End of story. Let's leave all the fascinating. If I throw it to her and I throw it upwards and then she catches it, these things are not mitziyuti, as they say in English. It's not normal. We don't do these things. And when we start creating all these fascinating heterim, we just end up doing the thing wrong. Yeah, so if I throw it up, it's true. If I throw it up and then she catches it, I then throw it towards her and that's allowed. I don't know. Did anyone, as they're going out to the car, ask the wife for the car keys and she says, yeah, sure. And she throws it straight up and you go diving for a catch? That's
Not to do with babies, by the way.
yeah, with baby. Yeah, we'll get to babies. We're going to get to babies in a moment. But that's not normal. These things aren't normal. And therefore, we're just going to leave them out. And we're going to say passing is forbidden. Passing is forbidden. Touching is forbidden. Clothing touching is forbidden. Now, this is something that anyone that has ever been zeicha to do, go to a family simcha when the wife is in Nida and you're taking the group pictures, and this becomes a serious challenge because a photographer, even if he's a yid, it's usually worse. I don't want to get in trouble over here, but usually it's worse. And if Bubby's there, then for sure it's worse. What? You can't go closer to each other? And you're busy pushing everyone in, you and your cousins and your 13th cousin, is everyone sitting there like a sardine, as if because you all have the same last name, great Zetas, you're all of a sudden all out of touch. Okay, how that happens, no one knows. But the bottom line is, you and your wife, problem is she's an Ida. You can't touch her. You can't touch her clothing. There are those that will taina that if it's like one of these large gowns and it's clothing touching clothing indirectly, yishmakam lahakil. There are those who will say that. It's a challenging matziv. Figure it out. What should I tell you? Figure it out. Flying, if anyone remembers, it becomes a challenge. Becomes a challenge. Seats are not. I mean, okay, maybe you're all zeicha to fly first class. I don't know, but for us normal people that fly private, for us normal, I don't know. The private planes are pretty tight. Pretty tight. I'm not so sure if that works. What? No, they're considered separate seats. That's not the problem. The problem is, as we've all been zeicha, when the person next to us sits down and is not someone that we enjoy so much. Like, what's the big deal? She's in her own seat. Like, why do you care that? Because you know what happens, all of a sudden you fall asleep and this touching. It's a shvera matziv. Some want to kind of put a pillow in between, and then at least you're touching to a pillow. No, just be mindful that she's an Ida. What should I tell you? I don't want to really go so involved. That's touching and passing. That's touching and passing. I will say a big heter, which is important as life goes on, is large items. Large items is a big heter, and it's a very important heter. Double stroller, dining room table, couch, things like that. You can't lift things together, right? Because that's called touching, for holding something together. But something that's very heavy that can't be lifted by one person, you're allowed to lift together. Yesh makim lahakal. I'm not saying it's lechatchila, but the other option is you carry it yourself. Not, where's your wife? Oh, she's at the bottom of the third flight. Where is she? Oh, she's coming up with the kids with a double stroller. She'll be up here soon. Okay, that's not nice. So if you want to be machmir, great. So you go down, you take the double stroller with the kids, and you be Superman carrying them up the 17 flights. If you don't want to be, no problem. You're allowed to carry together large items. You're allowed to carry together large, heavy items. Similar like a dining room table, something's got to move the table, and these are situations that are actually happen, and it's important to note. That's touching and passing. Eating and serving. This one is the basic we know is you can't eat from one dish. A hecker is real, okay? And it's also very important In the worlds of Basar v'Chalav, especially Baruch Hashem, as everyone has children, and if they don't, Mir Hashem v'Seyata D'Shmaya, and as the kids grow up, often different people like eating different things. I don't know if anyone else has had this. We used to say when, we used to blame it on the Bachram and the Dira, that around the little table, one guy's having schnitzel and one guy's having a bowl of cereal. But you have it in your house also. One kid decides, I'm not getting involved in parenting, whether it's right or not. I'm not eating dinner tonight. I'm having a cereal and milk. Okay, so you let the kid have cereal and milk. So she's having cereal and milk over here. I'm eating a piece of chicken over here. Something is not kosher. This doesn't work. This is usser. It's an isser derabanan to eat opposite genders, milk and meat, on the same table. It's a straight up Isser D'Rabbanan. So what do we do? Which, by the way, chicken and milk is also an Isser D'Rabbanan. Together. Making a chicken and cheese patty is an Isser D'Rabbanan. It's not a D'Oraisa. Eating chicken and cereal at the same table, two different people, is also an Isser D'Rabbanan. I'm just trying to show that Isser D'Rabbanan are real. That's all I'm pointing out. Oh, very good. So the simple Eitzahs, the Eitzah is a hecker. What's a hecker? A hecker is a reminder that we're not going to eat together. So the simplest of hekerim is to put down a placemat. It's the simplest of things. It has to be different placemats. If you're a placemat family, then it needs to be different placemat. We can't all be having the same placemats and then we just pretend. No, has to be different placemats. Or create some sort of barrier. Usually the kids, by the way, they get it implicitly. Like, wait, we can't eat together. Oh, okay. And like the kid will start like building the Great Wall of China between you. Like, what are you doing? What's that nice? Guess what? They got it right. Because they're creating a real hecker that, look, we're not eating together. And that's really what we're trying to do. In the world of need, it's the same thing. When a woman is in need and you're eating together, you need to have a hecker. Whether you need a hecker or not, when you're in public, is a massive machlekes, which ironically, more poskim are machmer than mekel, yet the Welt has taken on that, like it's a mitzvah and it's mutter and there's no shayla in the world. I will mention is that it's a shayla how big a hecker has to be. How big does hecker have to be? Meaning, can I come, take out my car keys and put on the table and that's my hecker? Can I do that? It's a shayla. It's a shayla. There are poskim that are machmir, there are mekilim. So when one is in public, it's much better that you're sitting there with your wife. It's much better to put something on the table as a form of hecker. And by the way, just the mere act of placing something down is already a cognizance that she's in Ida and we shouldn't be sharing food, v'chulu, v'chulu. That works. Another simple eight, I'm not wearing a watch today. I don't know who stole it, but you take off a watch, you put on the table. That's like a normal thing. Also, I'm giving you eights that people do. You don't have to feel strange. People do it all the time.
You have to do this during Vestos also? Or?
No. Vestos is only... I'll get to a great story when we're off camera. Remind me at the end. But I'll get in trouble if I say it in public. But Vestos is not Harchakos, is Tashmish, and Chibuk V'Nishik is Tavel of Bracha, which we'll get to at the end. So put anything on the table. Any form of hecker is better than no hecker. Obviously, lechatchila, it should be something of size. But when you're in public and it's a shayla, if you need a hecker, then put something down. Serving and all it gets a little nitty gritty. I don't want to lose everyone, but to make it simple, you can't serve the spouse when there is nidus. Can't sit there and put the food on the plate. You put it in front and things like that. More importantly, and this is actually something that many mess up on, pouring drinks, because all the time we pour for each other, right? It's just like a normal thing. The pashtus is pouring drinks is usher. The pashtus. There's some places people want to say it's only chashuv drinks like wine and things like that. But pouring should be avoided. Making coffee. Making your wife a coffee when she's in Nida. Very normal thing. You make your wife a coffee. You can't make her a coffee when she's in Nida. We view that as a davar chiba to make coffee. So what do you do? Very simple. Just don't put the milk in. And she'll put the milk in. You could bring the milk to the table. You could put it all, you can set it all up, and she'll just pour the milk in. You can't go and serve her a nicely cup, or you can't serve her. That's issue number one. And you can't make the coffee for her. In all these things, the Eitzah is shaloi b'fanav. That's the Eitzah. That's the Eitzah, which as a household gets busier, is the simplest Eitzah in the world. Because when she's in the kitchen, you could then pour the stuff onto her cup, and you could even put on her plate when she's shaloi b'fanav. So a bit fun of right. What? Yeah. What do you mean?
That's why it's okay.
Yeah, that's even okay because it's not called directly for them. But yeah, it's the same type of svara. Yes, the same type of svara. Bed preparations are a big problem. It's a big problem. We all remember, there's something about making a bed, but nowadays, okay, but you sitting on a bed is a problem. You can't sit on your wife's bed when she's in Nida. It's a problem. Say it's a problem because it's life, and there's kids and dust, and you just sit down. You can't sit. You certainly cannot lie in her bed. Beds cannot be touching. Beds cannot be touching. Let's just remind yourself that this is real. Whether beds should be touching when she's not a nida or not, I'm not weighing in. It's everyone's own Kabbalah and Huggins, whatever they feel. But beds cannot be touching when she's a nida. What does it mean not touching? La halacha, it means not touching. La halacha, this much space is fine. Now, I say that because you'll go away sometimes, and someone will put you up, and they'll put you in a bedroom, and there'll be like 2 beds, and like the whole room is so big, and like there's no real room. As long as the beds are not touching, midina, it's mutter, midina. Lechatchila, we want it to be, al pi Kabbalah, Zayar, Arizal, we want it to be an arm's length away. And the final area is dressing conduct, which is, again, we'll go back to the same yesod. We're trying to create a matzav of lack of intimacy, and therefore this is basically on the woman, how she should be dressed, etc. Now, a problem becomes when you have a woman who's nursing. We have a problem. The problem is that there will be times that she's not covered, and it becomes a challenge. It becomes a challenge. So it's important to note that Allah says, habata, histaklus is asr. Histakel means to gaze. Doesn't mean to see. Which means if you walk into a room and a woman and your wife is nursing, so if you walk into a room and a random woman is nursing, yes, that's how you should feel, because that's quite strange, odd, awkward. And yes, the door should have been locked. And if you're in Eretz Yisrael, let's leave Israelis out of this, because then they'll be sitting at the dining room table nursing while you're eating, because that's just regular. That's what we do. Let's not tell trauma stories. But in normal situations, not that that's not normal, we're not normal. Okay, but in regular situations, you walk in your wife and she's nursing. No, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. You can't stare. Seeing is not a problem. There's no reason. We don't have to become like militant. What are they called? Berkeley crazy people that no, I can't see anything. No, the answer is that gazing is usher, looking is mutter, and it's not something that one should make themselves crazy. But it's a real halacha. This halacha that, if you remember, happens at childbirth. Often in Eretz Yisrael, I'll tell you, believe it or not, many husbands are not in the room when the wife is giving birth because she's not dressed. How could I be in the room? The hospitals in Eretz Yisrael, anyone who's been zeicha, there's a curtain in the room for the husband.
It's sometimes it also.
Really?
They put up like they have like special curtains.
I guess they didn't think I was so from. I don't know. But in Eretz Yisrael, they have mamish. It's a curtain.
Except the one in the front door, plus there's another.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Except the one in the front door, there's another one.
They have one that they put in for.
Yeah, by the birthing, during the Shas Leida. And by the way, it's a very sensible thing because she's pasha completely undressed, but it's also sensible that she wants her husband to be in the room. And therefore, I don't think any of us have a shayla that certainly you should be in the room, but it's on you, so don't look. I mean, just don't look. Don't look. It's also to look, but yes, you should be in the room. Not so complicated. That's really the basics. That's really the basics. By the way, touching includes tapping. A tap is a touch, just like you wouldn't, I hope not, unless you're, there's a certain age, like 70, that you're all of a sudden, you're like, bubby, whatever, all of a sudden is allowed to start tapping people. I don't know. It's the same age when you cross the street holding your husband's hand. That age. We all zeicha one day to get there, that cute little bubby and Zaidi age. But we're not there, and we have a long way to go. Tapping is touching. It's the same thing. But I will mention, and very important, I said about, passing food and it's going to fall. As much as we read Ramesha, that was the Hakdama. The Lamaisa is, you don't need to create a scene. The Lamaisa is that you don't need to let the food fall on the floor. That someone's handing thing and you're not allowed to take it. So like, you're just like this and then it falls. You don't need to. Yes, it's an Issa D'Rabbanan, but yes, one does not need to do that. How that works in the actual Sigya is a little bit difficult. And Lamaisa, kvater is aser. It is aser. Chaim Chashamber used to say the skula for being shemer halacha is a bigger skula for being kvater. Are there eitzes? Maybe. I'll end with children. There's an incredible tashbeitz. The Pesach Tshuva quotes a tashbeitz. He's a Rishon, I believe. I will not make a mistake. I believe he is. And whether he is or isn't is not the point. He quotes a tashbeitz. And the Tashbit says, we all know you let it pass a baby when a woman is in nida. So I think the way we all were taught is that when the baby reaches over, that is when you're allowed to pass it. And then the problem becomes when the baby isn't reaching over and the baby is clunging to whichever spouse it is, and you need to pass the baby because you need to do whatever. What do you do right now? So the Tashbeit says, it's atzmai, and therefore you're allowed to pass the child. That's the words of the Tashbeit, which means that a living entity, we believe I'm carrying myself. This thing called dead weight is real. We believe living people carry themselves, and therefore you're allowed that when you're passing your child, you're not passing it because the child's carrying himself and you're taking the child. That's what the Tashbeit says. Lahalacha, and by the way, this Chayna says Atzmai is relevant in many areas of halacha. If you ever wonder if there's no Erev, are you allowed to get a guy to push a child outside? So the sugya is Chayna says Atzmai, the child carries himself. So now it's not a deraisa anymore. Now it's a derabanan. So you're getting a guy to do a derabanan. It's a shvus, the shvus, which be'etzem should be makam b'makam seirich, and therefore be'etzem in a place of a child who's at what age does a child carry himself? At what age? So pashas is when the kid can move on its own. Pashas, crawling it for sure, something like that. And whether you could get a guy to push a child on Shabbos, Sakar Shem Zaman Arbach, every ear has its anhagas. And that's the way it is, and that's the way it should be. And no one should get fascinating ideas. We're not in Flatbush right now, so we don't have to comment. But what's going on there is a travesty. That's all we'll say. I'm not saying it, Moshe Feinstein said it. It's a travesty. But if you want to know, is it mutter? It depends where you are. And ironically, it comes out incredible if you're out in vacation in the middle of Nowheresville and you need to eat somewhere and you can't carry your baby. So then you want to get a guy to push it. It's going to be much more lenient than if you're stam in a regular, normal Jewish community to get a guy. Someone asked me, Mamish, it's Erev Shabbos. He's in Lakewood somewhere and he's crossing over the one of the numbers. I don't remember what. I'm not a Lakewood person. And he wanted to know, can he get a guy to push his child? So I told him, Be'etzem, the answer is yes. But ask your local Rav what the anhag is. I'm pretty sure the answer is no. And the reason is for whatever reasons. But circling back to us, a very important halacha nachas nida. The pashtus is there's a makom to be makel to pass a child that can move on their own, irregardless if the child jumps or not. There's a makom to be makel. It's something that's important to know because when the child doesn't pass gently, all of a sudden we have problems. And it's important to note that there is a makom to be makel. What's more important is actually not to touch. That's what's more important. Because sometimes you go to extricate the child from spouse's hands all of a sudden, and you're sticking your hand in over here and you're pulling over here, and yeah, all of a sudden we have one big happy beer hug family. That should be avoided. But to pass the child, there is a makom to be makel. It's important to know sometimes the kid fell asleep and like it's a ganze matzev, like, what do I do now? There's a makom to be makel. The lechatchila is to go with the way the paiskim do say, and many paiskim do take on the chachani, etc., that it should only be done when the child does reach over. But there is a makom to be makel, and Mirza Hashem, the schus of being shemer halacha, as always, should be an incredible schus for everyone, and harchakas in particular are a little more challenging, as Moshe said, and hopefully a little bit extra vigilance should be a schus for all of us.